Okay, I think we'll make a start. So welcome to the Research and Engagement Funding Call information session, where we'll be introducing more information about the call, and we'll have time for a Q&A session at the end as well. So I'll just go into presentation mode. So just to introduce a bit more information about the call. So we as the Disability Under Siege Network Plus are making funds available for 2 large-scale research projects, and we have funding available for up to £125,000 each. This will enable the investigation and reframing of the discourses on disability in context of education and conflict. And we're particularly encouraging comparative projects that focus on issues that are cross-cutting across Jordan, Lebanon, and/or Palestine. So the project team are Professor Dina Kiwan, who unfortunately can't be with us today, but she will be available at the information session on the 26th of May to answer particularly any questions around the academic and intellectual content of any bids. And she's the principal investigator of the Disability Under Siege Network Plus. I'm Vera Benz, I'm the project manager, and I also have a project administrator, Sarah Martin, with me. To give a bit of an overview of the Disability Under Siege project, the Disability Under Siege is a Network Plus program funded by the Global Challenges Research Fund through the Arts and Humanities Research Council, which is part of the UK Research and Innovation funding body. The program runs from April 2020 to March 2024 with a geographical focus on Palestine, Lebanon, and Jordan. The Network Plus model is a funding model with a flexible mechanism whereby funding is allocated to a lead research organization, in this case, the University of Birmingham, to support a cross-institutional leadership team and international and non-academic partners. The model facilitates the development of partnerships between academics, NGOs, policymakers, and practitioners in both the global North and South, which allows for integrated and cross-cutting activities. So the Research and Engagement Funding Call is allowed a larger set of calls, and the focus is particularly on the production of new interdisciplinary and equitably co-produced inclusive knowledge about disability in Jordan, Lebanon, and/or Palestine. We're looking for critical evaluation of dominant discourses about disability, projects that focus on strengthening of the local and regional capacity to support the objective towards more inclusive education, and that can include both formal and non-formal education. Also, we're particularly interested in seeing use of inclusive and participatory methods to work with children with disabilities, and the development of sustainable partnerships, both within the region and South-South relationship, as well as between the global North and the global South. We've identified a number of research themes that we are particularly looking to cover in the calls commissioned, and these are around the experiences of primary and secondary school children with disabilities, and particularly out of school children with disabilities, which is a very under-researched area at the moment. And as well as formal education that can include non-formal and community education. We're looking at the intersection of disability, refugees, and war, as well as gender dimensions of disability, and also of representations of disability and how it is included in curriculum at primary, secondary, and tertiary levels of education. We are very keen on commissioning calls that challenge conceptions of disability, for example, decolonizing approaches, that critical studies of how disability is measured through international measurements of disability and/or local and regional measurements, as well as media and social media representations, critical policy analysis, legal analysis, as well as creative methods such as narrative, visual arts, and performance representations. We are also looking to support research training for early career researchers, disability activists, and disability-led organizations in the field of disability and education. So activities and outputs that can be proposed within the calls are quite varied. So they can include interdisciplinary research, pilot projects, action research, research training and partnerships within a specific country or regionally and internationally, as well as arts methodologies, including performance, narrative projects, or archives. Potential outputs and outcomes that successful calls might offer might include research reports and publications, policy briefs, policy development or decision making, or legislative change as a result of the recommendations made in the projects, new archives that are being set up to document disability in the region, exhibitions including photography, art or digital exhibitions, narrative projects and curriculum development. So to be eligible to submit an application on this call, projects must be led from either the UK, Jordan, Lebanon or Palestine. Projects should have a focus on Jordan, Lebanon or Palestine or multiple of these countries and comply with ODA funding guidelines. Project teams will need to be led by a principal investigator and up to 3 co-investigators. At least one PI or co-I should be based in Jordan, Lebanon or Palestine. All projects must adhere to the aims and expected outcomes of the Disability Under Siege Network, and applications that are led by non-academic organisations, NGOs, government agencies or local community organisations are eligible to apply as well. Applicants must be willing to undergo a due diligence and safeguarding review process and also detail the ethical review process for the project as part of the proposal. So some key information about the call. As I mentioned, there's up to £125,000 available for each award, and we have a budget of £250,000 in total. So that means we're looking to fund 2 projects, though possible that we may be able to fund an additional one if depending on the funds available. Projects can be up to 18 months in duration and will ideally commence in September 2022 and must finish before April 2024, as that is when our project ends. So some key dates around the call. The call has been open since the 5th of May. We have a second information event, a Q&A event on the 26th of May. And while this one focuses more on just giving an overview of the call, the 26th of May will be an opportunity to speak with the PI about specific ideas around kind of developing the intellectual and really the research proposal of the call. The deadline for application is the 26th of June 2022, and we're looking to notify successful applicants in July 2022. The call will be assessed against a number of criteria, including originality and the potential contribution it can make to knowledge about disability. Criterion 2 is around strategic aims and methods of the call, and whether they're particularly looking to fund creative and methods that focus on co-production and equitable partnerships between Global North and Global South, as well as working with disabled people. Where the third assessment criterion is value for money. Criterion 4 is around innovative collaborations and networking and the different partners that are being brought together as part of this call. And assessment criterion 5 is around the outputs and plans for dissemination and impact to generate change as a result of the research. All calls will be rated on a scale of 1 to 6, with 1 being exceptional and 6 being unfundable. Full details about the call are available on our website, disabilityundersiege.org, where there's a dedicated page with information about the call, including the full call description, the application form, assessment criteria, guidance on budgets, due diligence and safeguarding, as well as an FAQ section. As I mentioned, we also have a second information session on the 26th of May at 9:30 UK time, and we're always available by email support, disabilityundersiege@contacts.bham.ac.uk. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions. Please either put questions in the chat or raise your hand, either in person or on Zoom, and I'll be able to take any questions.
Quick question, are your PowerPoints on the website?
We are recording this call, so this session today, so there'll be a recording, and we can also add this PowerPoint to the website, yes.
Thank you.
Gavin?
Thank you, Sarah. So I'm calling from UNICEF Office of Research. I just wanted to, I think I understand the structure, but could you just maybe explain, is the structure that a project would be developed, the University of Birmingham would take a lead still as a principal investigator, or is that as the principal investigator of the Disability Under Siege Plus. I'm trying to understand the difference between how the project would go forward and be managed versus the role of the colleagues that you mentioned from the group. Thanks.
So the projects that are commissioned are going to be completely separate. So the University of Birmingham would not necessarily have any involvement. So
Okay.
we're going for the project to be sort of self-managed, and we are essentially the funding body, the University of Birmingham. So we fund projects, and then we would expect the project PI to take responsibility for the management of the project, along with likely some co-investigators, and that can include both academic and non-academic partners. So, but then there obviously will be reporting requirements, and we'll also be available to provide support and advice, especially for partners from a non-academic background that might not have experience of running research projects necessarily. So we'll be available for support, but we won't be involved in the day-to-day running of the projects.
Great, thanks. Understood.
Any further questions at all? Galia?
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm also with UNICEF Office of Research, and I've checked the online website that there were a few questions, research questions that were indicated. I just wanted to check whether these are general guiding questions or these are the specific areas that you're interested in being explored, or if there's room to suggest other research questions, for example.
I think they're more guiding questions to give you an idea of how you might want to think about it, but you don't have to use those precise questions as your research questions. So it's just more of an idea of some of the questions that we've been asking as a result of the scoping exercise that kind of led to the development of this course. So we looked at some of the gaps and identified priority areas for research. So those are kind of expressed in these questions, but you're welcome to formulate your own project. It's just to help you, to give you an idea of what we're looking for when assessing the call. But if there's something, if you want to adapt the questions or go in a slightly different direction, then that's completely fine too.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions at all? I'm not sure I can see the chat, so I'll just stop screen sharing for a second. Just put our email address in the chat as well. So if you have any questions after the call, please do get in touch, and I'll just share the link for the call details on the website.
Hi, Sarah. This is Gavin again. I had another question, just if I may, just related to whether if we found opportunities for other funding to support the same objective, but to expand the project, of course, with the same Palestine, etc. focus. Is that something which is a possibility, or would this have to be exclusive under this so essentially a 125 limit?
I think we'd have to assess it depending on the kind of potential on the content of the project. I think it does need to be a sort of distinct project rather than additional follow-on funding. But if it can fit into a larger research project, as long as it's sort of this distinct piece of work that allows us to kind of clearly measure
Sure.
What's been achieved as part of this funding, I think that should be possible.
Sure, that makes sense. Thanks.
I think we've got a question in the chat, which is about researchers who've already been awarded money during our first smaller call. Are they entitled to apply for this call? I think that should be possible, but as I mentioned, it needs to be a distinct program of work, and it probably needs to be quite separate from work that you're already doing, so we can properly assess what has been achieved as part of the work that has been funded by Disability Under Siege. But there's no reason you can't apply again for funding. Got another question about what kind of partnerships and networks will be favoured. I think, as I said, we're looking particularly around projects that have a cross-cutting perspective on focusing on at least 2 or 3 or all of the countries of Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine. So I think that's something that we're particularly looking for. And partnerships that have involvement of people with disabilities, not just as research subjects, but as equitable partners, as co-researchers, or working with organizations of persons with disabilities. I think that's something that we're particularly excited to fund. And as I mentioned, we're really looking for kind of an original use of partnerships across both the global South, South-to-South partnership, but also South and global South and North partnership, and connection being made beyond between academia, NGOs, and activists and policy as well. So I think those are all potential partnerships that we'd be really excited to see in applications. Rhea?
Yes, hello. I have a small question, and I don't know if it makes sense to you, but I'm going to try and say it. If I'm an individual, let's say, and I want to be involved in one way or another, and I present a project, but then maybe you could advise who I could partner with, seeing as I'm not affiliated to anyone in particular. So how could that, is that possible?
I think we can, if you get in touch with an idea, we can potentially see if there's other people interested, but we're not really in a position to kind of actively build these partnerships, partly because our roles is to be sort of independent in assessing the calls. So we can provide some general support with developing partnerships, but we're not really able to connect you to other people within the region, if that makes sense. So I think if you get in touch, we can discuss your particular situation and see if there's anything we can do to support you with identifying potential partners to work with.
Okay, yeah, that's clear. Thank you for answering. Thank you.
Any further questions at all? Just add the link to the call in the chat. I've just put the link in a chat to the page that has all the call documents and all the information. So there's a full description of the call, as well as the full criteria for application and the application form. And if you have any questions at all, please do get in touch by email. And as I mentioned, we have the second information session on the 26th of May, where we'll be able to answer potentially more specific questions about ideas. And if there's any questions in the meantime, please do get in touch by email. If there's no further questions, I think we can stop the recording. I'll just give it another couple of minutes to see if there's any last minute questions. No, I think that's it. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and I hope to see lots of really exciting and interesting applications coming in, hopefully. But if you need any support at all, we're very much here to help and answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah.